Hi viewers, so welcome to our Hypno Talks. இந்த ஃபோர்த் எபிசோடில் நாங்கள் ஒரு சூப்பரான ஒரு இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்கான ஒரு விஷயத்துக்காக நாங்கள் வெயிட் பண்ணிகிட்ருக்கோம். ஏன்னா அஷோக், நம்ம பாட்காஸ்ட்டை ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாமா?
Yeah, we can start.
ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம். ஸோ ஃபோர்த் பாட்காஸ்ட்டில் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்காக தான் நம்ம பண்ணலாம்.
Yes, definitely. We are going to have something new in this podcast.
இல்லைங்க, நான் தமிழில் பேசிகிட்டு இருக்கேன், நீங்கள் இங்கிலீஷில் பேசிகிட்டு இருக்கீங்க. எதனால் இது? யூஸ்வலாக தமிழில் தான் நம்ம பாட்காஸ்ட் பண்ணுவோம்.
Yes.
பட் நான் கேட்குற எல்லாத்துக்குமே நீங்கள் இங்கிலீஷில் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கீங்க. ஏதாவது இதுக்கு ரீசன் ஏதாவது இருக்கா?
Yeah, there is a reason.
ஓ, அதுவும் இங்கிலீஷில் தான் சொல்லுங்க.
Of course.
Then tell me, what is the reason?
We have a very special person in our studio.
Okay.
And he doesn't know Tamil.
Okay.
He knows English.
Okay.
He is coming all the way from UK.
UK, wow, that's interesting. ஸோ எனக்கே க்யூரியஸாக இருக்குது யார் அந்த பர்சன்னு ஸோ அப்படின்றது. ஓகே, கோ ஆன், சொல்லுங்கள்.
And he is a hypnotherapist
Okay.
and hypnotist
எஸ்.
for the past 30 years.
ஓகே.
And he has entered into the field of hypnosis in the year 1995.
1995.
Yeah, from 2004-2005 onwards, he has started hypnosis as his full-time career.
சூப்பர்.
In the year 2007, he has written one famous book
ஓகே.
called Realities Plastic.
ஓகே, அதுதான் டூ மச் கிவ்அவே நினைக்கிறேன். ரியாலிட்டி இஸ் பிளாஸ்டிக் சொன்னதுமே ஐ திங்க் யார் என்னன்றது மோஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த மெஜிஷியன்ஸில் இருக்கக்கூடிய ஃப்ரெட்டர்னிட்டி எல்லாருக்குமே தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும். அண்ட் பீப்புள் வுட் நோ வாட் இஸ் ரியாலிட்டி இஸ் பிளாஸ்டிக் புக். வில் டெஃபினெட்லி நோ
Yes.
who is that person is.
Yeah,
So it's
his client base is more than 7,000 people.
exactly.
And his book Realities Plastic has been sold more than 30,000 copies.
Wow.
And he is traveling worldwide. He has trained so many people. He has made so many normal people into hypnotists.
Right.
And today they are successfully practicing hypnosis and hypnotherapy
Across the
because of him. And he has appeared in various media, global medias like BBC radio.
Yes.
So he has appeared there and he has shared his valuable knowledge to the society. And today
It is our honor and privilege
to welcome Mr. Anthony
Jacquin.
Thank you. My honor, my privilege.
He has been our master as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
Some good memories.
Yeah.
It's nice. So, yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I've been in Chennai for, I think, 3 or 4 nights. Climatizing, eating lots of delicious food.
And we hope that this is not our first time visit to Chennai, right?
First time in Chennai.
Oh, first time in Chennai.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been to India 3 times. New Delhi, Bangalore, and I fell in love with Kerala. So now Chennai is set to stun.
Superb.
Yeah.
It's actually a beautiful time to visit Chennai, though the weather is quite on and off. It's hot and as well as this,
Yes.
it's cloudy and sometimes it's rainy. But it's good to visit Chennai always. Chennai is a beautiful place, and it's our privilege to welcome to our place since it's been our
Great to see you in your hometown.
yes.
Before going to start the podcast, I would like to convey my sincere gratitude to you because whatever I am or whatever we are today,
Yeah.
it is possible because of you, because we have made our career around hypnosis. We are taking hypnosis workshops, we are doing stage hypnotism shows, we are doing hypnotherapies, all those things we are doing.
Yeah.
So we are making a living out of hypnosis.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. And I'm happy to have played a small part in that. We've been connected for a long time. We just realized it's 15 years.
Yeah,
Correct.
15 years. Since
Yeah.
2009,
Yeah.
we got to know each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I follow your career and posts and progress, and we know that hypnosis is a gift. So that not a gift we have, but a gift we can give in terms of the experiences that people can have, the changes. So I love to hear the news that you're doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we go for the questions?
Let's go.
Yeah. The first question, where your hypnosis journey started?
Good question. My father, Freddie Jacquin, is a very accomplished hypnotherapist, And my journey started very soon after his, because he was always an entrepreneur. He was always into sales and had his own business. So had an interest in, I guess, influence and those kind of things. He also was someone who was naturally into personal development. He didn't need books to tell him that, you know, if you can imagine it, then you can begin to make it into a reality. So in the mid-90s, around 93, 94, he came across a very famous book you may know by Anthony Robbins called Unlimited Power. That book, we didn't know at the time, but that book was really his interpretation of neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP as it is known, started as an exercise in modeling excellence. It wasn't about therapy or business. It was just about modeling the person who can do what it is that you'd like to do. And they happened to model 3 very talented therapists, one of whom was called Milton Erickson. So Anthony Robbins to NLP to Milton Erickson led my dad to doing a hypnotherapy training. It was a transformative moment, and he sent me a letter. I mean, that's how long ago it was. I think we may have had a computer, but I don't think we were sending emails. And he said, he actually said, I feel like I'm wearing an invisible cloak, like he had a new power. And actually what we do now is miles away from what he was doing then. But I was at university. He gave me a load of scripts essentially from his training, and I hypnotized someone, they quit smoking. Second person, I was lucky, I got 2 results, and I was hooked. So, you know, I left university and did a master's degree and did many jobs, but throughout those 6 or 7 years, I was only really thinking about hypnosis. I was going into work and using the photocopier to print things off to get my hypnosis notes in order. So I went full-time. It was actually full-time in 2001. All the other facts were perfect, but full-time in 2001. And I've been, you know, doing therapy and teaching hypnosis. That's probably the 2004, since around that time. Yeah. And as I said earlier, it never gets old. What I find is whatever else you're interested in, whatever your hobbies are, your sports are, your business is, being a parent, anything, having an understanding of the power of words multiplied by your imagination will enhance all of those things. So yeah, I've never looked back.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Good to hear that.
That's fantastic to hear. My next question is, would you please explain what hypnosis is all about in simple terms for the viewers who doesn't know, who don't know anything about hypnosis?
Yes.
How would you describe?
Well, as you all know, because you read lots, there isn't one single definition of what hypnosis is. In fact, some of the most learned academics have been arguing about the very nature of hypnosis for a long time. I think what most people think of when they think of hypnosis is that it is some kind of special state that a hypnotist puts you into where you become more receptive to the suggestions that are then given. And when I first got into it, I certainly looked at it that way. But there are other ways to look at hypnosis, and I guess the most common alternative position is, rather than thinking of it as a special state, actually that's just one of the effects. That's one of the suggested effects. So instead, you could look through the lens of quite ordinary abilities, like focusing, concentrating, imagining, doing things inside your mind that provoke responses within you. So I've actually arrived, and I'm very satisfied with, a very, very simple definition: that hypnosis is simply ideas provoking responses. Now, there are ideas everywhere that are provoking responses, but there's a particular quality to the response that would make it hypnotic, and that's that response is to a degree automatic. A suggestion or an idea is given to you, and there is an automatic response to that. So hypnosis is really about ideas provoking automatic responses from, the person who's being given the suggestion. And I know for some that may sound so normal, so everyday. But when you look through this lens of hypnosis, as long as I have, actually it is everyday. It is everywhere. Your problems are made of the same stuff. You are imagining something, an idea, and there is a response that may be anxiety or panic or fear or shame. What hypnotists do is come along and serve up some other ideas that provoke different responses, and you can have a different experience. So that's really, how I see my job.
That was profoundly said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I would like to share one experience that I have faced in the last year.
Yeah.
Last year, I was conducting my hypnosis workshop. In the workshop training center, there is a nearby hall. Okay, there are there are more number of halls in that particular campus. I was conducting my hypnosis workshop in one hall. Nearby there was another hall. In that hall there was another training going on. During the lunch time, both the two hall participants, they have interacted with each other. At that time they got introduced to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then those participants asked our participant, what kind of program are you attending?
Mm-hmm.
And my participant said, we are attending hypnosis workshop. And those people were very scary. At that time, I was crossing that area, and my students pointed out me, yes, he is our master. Then I saw them. I smiled
Yeah.
like this. But I smiled. The response from them was very scary. They were looking me like,
Sure.
yeah, in such a way I got a response from them. So still, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions
Absolutely.
about hypnosis.
Yeah.
Though the technology is evolving,
Yeah.
still there are a lot of myths and misconceptions.
Yeah.
How do you see this?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Last night I was speaking to a group of business people in the city, the Madras Management Association. Lots of business leaders with teams, with relationships within their business, sales, marketing. It's all communication. In fact, their business is very much about ideas that provoke responses. And yet, I still felt the need to clear up some of the misconceptions. The misconceptions, of course, are that perhaps the first one is mind control. People have a fear of having their mind controlled. Quite right. This is really about learning to control your own mind. I think some people think they will be unaware. They'll be unconscious. This is simply not true. You're, of course, part of the process. I describe hypnosis as it happens, as it unfolds, as a collaborative act of the imagination. But I think there's a reason that these myths persist, and it does come back to the very heart of hypnosis that I mentioned a moment ago, which is about automatic responses. Because we go around in life with a subjective sense of control. It's one of our basic human needs, actually, to feel that we are in control of our life and to some degree our well-being and our destiny. But when we really look at human behaviour, we see that the vast majority of it is habitual, is predictable. You do the same thing you did yesterday. You have your tea the same way. You eat your food in the same way. And you get provoked by your loved ones in the same way, and so on. But even when we respond, it often feels like we are the agent, we are doing, we are choosing. Which coffee shall I have? This coffee. It feels like a choice. I think that's the misconception, actually. Most of your actions are automatic. It's just you have this sense of comfort around feeling that you are doing everything. What hypnosis plays with is this subjective sense. And it creates experiences that instead of feeling like you are doing them, it feels like they are happening. Some of the classic exercises, and when you start learning hypnosis, we call them physical exercises or suggestibility test. Suggest someone's arm feels light and it will lift, or it feels heavy and it will go down. And the person having that experience really shouldn't be feeling, okay, I will put it down, I will comply, I think he wants me to lift it up. They should have the experience of it's lifting, it's moving. In other words, it's happening. So there is some tradition amongst performers of hypnosis to kind of take the credit for that. It is my magnetic power, it is my hypnotic gaze that makes this happen. And it's easy for our subject, the person being hypnotized, to lose sight of the fact that, oh no, I agreed to collaborate imaginatively, right? So I went to the show, I followed the instructions, I sat in the therapist's chair, I revisited the event, or whatever it is. You collaborate so that that person can have a non-volitional experience. To me, that's very important. It almost seems like a paradox. We're collaborating so that you can have an experience of not doing. So you can have an experience where something is emerging from you. So I think hypnotists have certainly played their part in keeping these misconceptions alive. But I prefer to be open about the fact that hypnosis, however it looks, however we make it look, is always a collaborative act. It's a meeting of our minds. It's a leading of the imagination, so that you can have experiences that are certainly seem out of the ordinary. My view is they only seem out of the ordinary because you had an illusory sense of control in the first place. The fact is, we're creatures of habit, and we are quite predictable in how we respond. So there's nothing to be worried about. You can't get stuck in hypnosis. You are not under somebody else's control. You can stop engaging with the process at any time. And in fact, you should be engaging with this process more often, because it can lead to wonderful changes in your life experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You told that you are very open in how to say, demystifying the myths and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the good quality we have learned from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever is approaching us, they will be asking so many questions about hypnosis. Or is this hypnosis, or is that hypnosis? In your point of view, what hypnosis is all about? In such a way, they are asking so many doubts.
Yeah.
We are very patiently approaching them, and we are clarifying their doubts.
Yeah.
That one quality we have learned and we have inculcated
That's,
because of you.
well,
Thank you
that's
so
good
much.
to hear,
Yeah.
because as you found out, it's no less amazing when we do this. In fact, in many ways, the experience is then more valuable because it's not reliant on this powerful hypnotist. We're giving the gift of this. Let me show you what you can do. Let me show you how powerful your mind is. Let me show you something incredible about, when you harness your imagination in this way. And then, even if you then have a fun experience and do silly things and do a stage show, it's much more likely that person will still come to you afterwards and say, wow, so how can I use this? Or can this help with this? Rather than hiding and hoping it wasn't recorded. Give them. It's not that we're even giving them. We're enabling them to realize, to remember that they have an ability. Sometimes I'm envious of the ability of my subjects, because we know it is a skill, and some people are naturally skilled. They're brilliant subjects. No one quite knows why. But we do vary in our responsiveness. But when you see, rather than seeing the hypnotizing bit as the skill, because that's pretty easy to learn, if you see the responding as the skill, well, we can get better at it. That's a key.
So this clears the most of the people's doubts that it's not the performer who does everything or controls the participants' minds. It's the participant who controls their own mind, and they already have this ability of experiencing this hypnosis. So it's just the performer who gives, or opens the window to make the participant enjoy the state of hypnosis.
Yes.
So that's wonderful, actually.
Yes.
So that clears the doubt.
Quite. They may not know they have this skill.
Correct.
In fact, if they don't know, then it could be a blessing or a curse, because they could not recognize their level of receptiveness to suggestion. But having self-awareness about it helps. I met a therapist last night who, I've heard this many times, but she said when she does a session, she listens to their story and she really feels it, and takes a lot out of her. She takes their problems on board. And are there ways of avoiding that? And, you know, there are some things a therapist can do to protect themselves and center themselves and get back to kind of neutral. But that's one example, is that she is highly receptive to the stories of others, to the ideas of others. And I would suggest to her that rather than just thinking of it sort of energetically, which is how she thought of it, just recognize this is a sensitivity that you have. Like some people are more sensitive to the sun. And therefore, once you're self-aware of that, then you can do better things to protect yourselves. You know, one of which is reduce the amount of time you spend indulging in the details of the story. But even just having little rituals either side of your therapeutic work to, again, just protect and kind of cleanse yourself in some way can help. But self-awareness is a gift. When I meet someone, especially in therapy, and they've had lots of problems and they respond well to this, they often came for therapy for one single thing. It would be such an opportunity lost if they were to leave and not know you have real skills. You have the ability to change your mind. And that's really where I think people should begin to learn about self-hypnosis.
So it's just that they have the light in themselves. It's just our duty to ignite it to light more, right? So probably they can shine with the light.
Absolutely.
So just
to ignite it, or to remind them sometimes that we're pointing out what's already there, so they can use it in a different way.
Correct.
But yes.
So moving to the next question, can everyone be hypnotized, or is there any particular restriction or so?
Yeah.
What your take on this?
Well, first of all, I've shared how I see it. It's ideas that provoke responses. Mm-hmm. Everyone can experience that.
Great.
Okay. However, it's a skill, and there are a range of responders. It's like a bell curve. So we have to accept that without any extra training, there are some people who are highly responsive, and there are some people who, at the first go, are not. They will wonder what all the fuss is about. They will perhaps think everyone else is play acting or faking it or something. So yes, there's a range of responders, and most of us are in the middle. So that means that the vast majority of people, 85%, will have an experience the first time that they try it. And even those 15% and those toward the lower end of that bell curve can learn to be better subjects. I've been doing this a long time. I've hypnotized thousands of people, and personally, I can't stand in front of an audience and just tell who will be good. I can't look at you and tell whether you will be good or not. And for that reason, I don't worry about it. I don't try and do that. All I try and do is engage as many people as possible, if I'm lucky enough to have an audience, or even if it's one person. Engage them and give them some experience of something happening. If you're sitting still and just a single finger is twitching by itself, moving by itself, it's not going to carry a full stage show. But that can be a massively profound experience for that person, because they're used to having control over their fingers. And we can hang all sorts of meaning and value on these kind of physical responses. So the second part of your question was, are there particular traits and so on? And there is an abundance of science out there that has looked at almost everything you could think of in that regard, from gender, intelligence, creativity, vividness of the imagination, all of these things. And there is no single thing that we can say. I think if the person... One that comes up a lot is absorption. Are you the kind of person that gets caught up in a movie, forgets their surroundings for a while? I think that can be a useful trait. The thing that I think can make a difference, and it's hard to detect, is this person able to be comfortable with the experience of things starting to happen? Because for some people, when they feel that, they have a need to exert control, okay, to grab hold, to open their eyes. No, it's not working. And you can see there's this retraction. So if you have enough, just confidence within yourself that you would be happy to find the edges of your experience. How far can you be pushed? Knowing you're safe, how far could you lean? How fast could you travel? If you're happy to indulge in finding, the edges of your experience, then I think that helps. The other thing is, when we're giving suggestions, we know what we're saying and we're watching responses. But actually, there's a whole range of experiences that person could be having. Even if their finger's twitching. It could be, am I doing that? This is ridiculous. Maybe it just twitched. Or it could be, wow, what's happening? There's still a load of different subjective experiences within there. And we don't quite know what the experience is. So, again, what helps, and this echoes what I said earlier, is, does this person understand that their role is an engaged, active, almost goal-seeking role, in that they want to have the experience, it's starting to happen, and they're able to indulge in it. They don't feel a need to assert themselves or push back. I sometimes think it's like trying to start a fire with a stick. And I guess not many of us have done that or tried since childhood, but you work really hard and then you think, is it getting warm? And you might see a tiny bit of something. So we're coaxing it out. And so what would help make someone hypnotizable is if they understand that they are part of the coaxing process. If they recognize tiny changes, they indulge in them. Yeah. So you don't need a special imagination. You don't need to be... it kind of helps, I think, to have some, enough cognitive abilities to be able to process the ideas and things. But, this can be effective with the vast majority of the population. Absolutely. Without any extra training, there are some people who are referred to as highly responsive or highly hypnotizable, or even on their first go. And I think we should, give them a nod of respect, because it is for those people, it's almost to me like being superhuman. They can hallucinate on demand. They could have a leg amputated without anaesthetic, without, too much bother. So I think sometimes this question of is everyone hypnotizable comes from a place where we're comparing the population to this small percentage of highly responsive people. I see the full suite of possible responses as being hypnosis, not just these very less common. It's not that they're harder, they are less common responses. But who knows? We may just need to find another way of presenting the ideas to that person.
Correct.
Yeah.
Good. So, moving to the next question, and so what is the key differences between stage hypnosis and then the therapeutic experiences?
Well, I guess the key difference is your purpose and intention at the beginning. When we do stage hypnosis, the traditional hypnotism act is a comedy show. I mean, we can...
Full of entertainment.
For 150 years it's been a comedy show.
Yeah.
So you are, via one means or another, finding the people in the audience who are the most responsive on that night, in that mood, and you are displaying the phenomena of hypnosis that the people on stage are kind of your props at that point. Respectfully, they are the means by which you entertain the audience. And what do the audience find funny? Actually, it seems the most silly and childish things. Someone not being able to say their name, not being able to stand up from their seat, not, believing they are a superstar, believing the person next to them is their favourite superstar. So there are physical responses, emotional responses. People get upset, they get angry. And there are what I call more cognitive responses, things like hallucinations, amnesia, and post-hypnotic suggestions, responding to suggestions on a trigger much later on. So essentially stage hypnosis is it's an entertainment show where you use people to display hypnosis and entertain a crowd. Sometimes some therapists, not all, have a problem with that, and they, on the one hand, seem to be suggesting, it's all fake, it's not real hypnosis, and on the other hand, they are horrified that you would dare to use hypnosis in this way.
Correct.
I find those hypnotherapists that object very rarely can display the full range of hypnotic phenomena. They haven't dared to suggest some of the things that a stage hypnotist does. So my view is that if stage hypnosis is, presented tastefully and done well, then it is of benefit to hypnotherapists. Every show I've done, there has always been someone afterwards saying, "Can you help me with this?" Even though 10 minutes earlier we were doing the silliest and most ridiculous things. So I understand, the notion that there should be some separation, but there's a lot that hypnotherapists can learn from the performance aspect of hypnosis. They can become more confident utilizing a wider range of phenomena. And the idea that performers take it less than seriously, or leaving a damage in their wake, simply isn't true, because they would like to be booked again. They would like to go and perform at that venue again. They like happy customers too. So I'm happy to, have a foot in both camps, as we say. Yeah. Coming back to, the differences, again, in hypnotherapy, primarily people are coming along to overcome a habit, a fear, a compulsion, perhaps some kind of block. It's very often kind of these single issues, although many more of my clients these days are coming along because they have, anxiety, depression, other psychosomatic issues, and obviously lots of people come along to stop smoking and lose weight. That's how I built my business, really, was helping people quit smoking. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, my next question is, would you please share about any remarkable transformation that you have witnessed using your hypnosis?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I've seen many things that not just surprised me, but it still blows my mind. So I think one of the most dramatic things you could provoke and witness is seeing someone who is in chronic physical pain. The pain has outlived its usefulness. Their body is essentially healed, but they're still experiencing chronic physical pain that's debilitating. And often in a single session, the pain either significantly reduces and in some cases disappears. And I've seen that happen with very brief techniques. My father created a technique called the arrow technique. You don't even really need to make any effort to hypnotize. You just start where the person is at. Close your eyes, focus on the pain. Tell me between 0 and 10, how bad is that? You ask them to close their eyes and imagine a few things, and often within a few minutes, when you say, where's the pain gone now? They will testify it's gone. They can't feel it. They often look confused themselves. Like, what's happening? So that, the fact that, a human could be having a very real experience that they tend to think of primarily as being physical. It's a physical problem of pain. It turns out that a portion of it, in some cases all of it, is an emotional or a psychological issue. So that I find amazing. I started my business by seeing thousands of smokers, one-to-one sessions and group sessions. It's not the most exciting thing, perhaps, but it's life-changing, it's life-saving. If someone is smoking 30, 40 cigarettes a day, by the time they come and see a hypnotherapist, they've normally tried everything. They've tried patches and willpower, and they've been sick and all of these things. And I've seen thousands of people quit, leave as a non-smoker. The need is gone. The cravings have gone. It can be easy. It can be painless. So I don't get tired of that. I enjoy that kind of stuff. I think some of the things that, again, are perhaps seem a bit more dramatic, but are becoming more and more common. Hypnosis. There's a long tradition of using hypnosis to help people who have skin problems, psoriasis, eczema, and sometimes those kind of things respond well to ideas. And the other thing I've done less of, but I've done some, is helping people overcome allergies. And again, I think it seems different. Again, because I think most people think of an allergy as something physical. It's a rash. It's a blister. I come out in this thing. So they focus very much on whatever's triggering it. But I really look at so many of those allergies now very much like I would a phobia, in that it's as if your body is trying to protect you, even though there isn't a real threat. There was a wonderful experiment done years ago where they had a group of people who were allergic to a particular kind of ivy. Sometimes call it poison ivy. So it's not a deadly allergy. Appreciate some allergies can kill, so watch out for the peanuts and the bee stings. But things like milk and strawberries and so many other things that just bring you out in a light response. In the experiment, they have a bunch of these students who are allergic to poison ivy. They blindfold them. They brush them with a different plant that doesn't have the properties, and tell them it's poison ivy. And these tiny blisters come up. They do it the other way round too. They tell them it's something else entirely and brush them with poison ivy, and there's no response.
Correct.
Well, really? Can we still say it's physical? Just because there's a blister doesn't mean it's physical. Another quite common issue for people who've had an amputation is to have phantom limb pain, which is pain. Imagine the leg's been amputated below the knee and they still experience pain in the foot that is no longer there. They're not just experiencing it, around the knee. It's in the foot, which is no longer there. They can't scratch it. They can't itch it. It's like when you have anesthetic and you have an itch. It's awful. That kind of thing also responds extremely well to these techniques. More recently, a thing I've just been doing a bit more of is seeing people who have, we call it ARFID. It means extreme selective eating problems. They're often unable to eat any vegetables or any fruit or not this kind of meat, and they end up with an extremely reduced set of options, maybe just very plain crackers and ketchup or something. And again, when you ask those people, because they're generally experiencing disgust, they're generally experiencing disgust at the thought of a food. And you say, so how much of this do you think's about the food? And they will say, well, 100% or 90%. I hate the texture. I can't stand the smell. When actually, no, it's similar to the other things I've mentioned. At some point, this very strong emotion of disgust has become associated with something. That problem often yields to hypnotherapy very well, and then they tentatively eat the thing. And the thing is, we don't have to love everything we eat. We can taste something and say, yeah, I don't really like that, or oh, it's a strange texture, without experiencing disgust. So pain, the kind of problems that people believe to be physical, I think it's a false distinction, to be honest, but in that there's always a psychological component, there's always an emotionally charged component. And when those things are gone, it's not that the person's healed the back injury, as an example. The discs haven't changed, but the signal that the brain is giving has been soothed or removed. So I enjoy seeing change in anyone. These are mostly getting rid of problems, but the more resourceful side of hypnotherapy is also great. When you see someone overcome stage fright or public speaking problems and actually emerge from that and begin to show their talents or share their message, it's also very satisfying work.
Agreed.
Okay. So you told about the arrow technique, which has been created by your father.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to give a testimonial for that arrow technique. Last time I met you in the year 2019, I met you and your father, right? At that time, one guy approached your father and he said he was having pain on his neck. And your father asked the person to close his eyes, and he hypnotized him, and he has applied the arrow technique. Instantaneously, the person got the relief
Pain
on
got
his neck, and he did yoga.
He was a yoga.
Yeah, he
yogi,
did yoga. Yeah, he did
upside down.
upside down yoga posture.
Did a headstand.
Yeah, he did. That was really phenomenal. Yeah.
Miracle.
Yeah, and it's a good example because the gentleman had, in an accident unrelated to yoga, had broken his neck.
Correct.
Obviously not so badly that he was paralyzed, but badly enough, that's a trauma for sure, badly enough that a part of him was born at that point, a protective part. So, even when his neck had recovered, when would be a good time to do a headstand? Well, that part of him continued to simply keep him safe. Don't do it. The truth is, he had healed. It wasn't, 2 weeks after his operation. He had healed. He's a yogi. He is capable of doing that posture. He's probably done it thousands of times. And yes, he did the headstand. It's very dramatic.
Yes.
And I know you've, applied the arrow technique yourself, and you've seen it. When you first witness it, it's hard to believe. Can that really happen? My dad sometimes says about it, the toughest thing for you, the therapist, is not looking surprised when you get the results. Really?
Exactly.
But, at that moment when they say, I can't feel it, the best thing you could possibly say in their moment of confusion and wow is, this will never bother you again. Because it's easy to just be wowed yourself, But it's a good, very good technique, and it carries a few important principles within it. Yeah.
So my next question is, how can hypnosis be used to help the people to overcome their fear and phobia?
Very good. So, again, there are so many different ways of working. I can't speak for all hypnotherapists. The way I look at it is quite simple. Human beings clearly have an ability to learn things, and they can learn things through repetition, like walking and talking and riding a bicycle, driving a car. And we also seem to have an ability to learn things in certain moments in a moment, in one trial, in one event. And this tends to be when the brain perceives it to be very important, and of primary importance is keeping someone safe. So people can have a single traumatic event, and that seems to be enough to create what I referred to earlier as a part of you that runs a protective mechanism. Even a young child doesn't have to touch something that is hot or painful 5 times. It hurts. They're now scared of that thing. And what does scared mean? Scared really means a surge of adrenaline and a whole bunch of responses in the body that we can add thoughts about it later on. I don't like that. Why does that always happen to me? These kind of things. But actually, these thoughts are the last thing. So you could think of those thoughts as then sort of completing the loop. They then begin to add to the problem. So first of all, if you have a fear, an anxiety, a phobia, just recognize this isn't who you are. This is not fundamentally your personality. This is not your identity. And I say that because some people have taken it on as their identity. They say, I'm an anxious person. I'm a nervous person. It just means they experience this feeling in different, more situations than others. But phobias tend to be quite specific. You can have normal responses everywhere else. You can do things that require courage everywhere else, but still have a phobia of actually anything. It could be a button. It could be a bird. It could be a frog. It can be anything. So how can it be helped? First of all, recognize this is not who you are. Secondly, this is a learnt pattern. And thirdly, it's as if you have a part of you that is running this protective mechanism. It's not the enemy. It's your most loyal employee. It's your most loyal soldier, your most loyal bodyguard. Perhaps a bodyguard's the best way of putting it. There's a threat. You hire a bodyguard. If that bodyguard then jumps on you every time it sees anybody, then we need to say, no, not anybody. Unless you see this person, I don't really want to know you're there. So hypnotherapy actually allows you to seemingly communicate with parts of yourself, and if we extend the analogy, to sort of rewrite their job description, to reset the system. I'm not great with computers, but at some point in the past I've had a laptop and I've ended up with like McAfee software and it's popping up. It's like, am I under attack? What's going on?
I could understand your feeling.
Yeah. So I didn't know the story of McAfee at the time, but there seems to be a permanent threat.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. I need to, clear out the bugs
Correct.
and the problems, and then I don't really want to hear from my security software until it's important.
Okay.
Right. So these kind of things that people often take on very personally, more often than not, they were born of a single random event. And in fact, often that event in that moment wasn't even that big a deal. It's just that your brain is geared up for your protection. And sometimes we have to just speak to it. That's kind of what hypnosis is like sometimes. It's just a model, but we begin to communicate with ourselves in a slightly different way. And phobias respond very well to this. You certainly, if you have a fear or a phobia like that, find a therapist, find someone you trust, or learn about self-hypnosis. Listen to an audio, give it a go, because often it's just like the bubble bursts or the illusion disappears, and if you no longer feel the adrenaline, you haven't got the problem anymore. It doesn't mean you have to like spiders or pick up frogs or speak in public. You don't have to, but at least you'll have the choice. So I enjoy working with that kind of stuff. Yeah.